Next guest is going to weigh in on return to work, plus the U.S. government's stake in Intel and so many other things. Happiness has a new book out. We got to talk about it. Harvard University professor Arthur Brooks, columnist for The Atlantic. We got a whole laundry list. AEI president emeritus, new host of the podcast Office Hours with Arthur Brooks. And as I mentioned earlier, the new book, The Happiness Files, Insights on Work and Life. It is now a New York Times bestseller. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
To you. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great.
All of those things are pretty cool. I don't even know what you do about your office. Which one do you go to, given all of the things you're doing?
It's great. It's actually, people want to be happier. Who knew? It's big news.
How important is it for employees to be happy? And I asked that in the context of John Stankey writing a pretty tough love memo to his staff. Some people love a tough love memo. Other people, freak out.
He's a very straightforward guy. I know John Stankey. He's a great CEO. It's a terrific company. And it's when somebody's straightforward in a period of double talk. I mean, CEOs have gotten really good at not saying what they actually think or trying to shade the truth when they're talking to their own employees. And a lot of CEOs have become afraid of their employees, as a matter of fact. They get blown up in the Slack channel. They don't know what to do. Something might get leaked. John Stankey doesn't care. He's running a great company, and he wants to be honest with everybody.
Can you just explain this? I just want to go. I don't want to relitigate the past, but a little bit.
Yeah.
Why do you think it was, I would say, 2018, 19, into the pandemic, which is its own world?
Yeah.
Why CEOs felt that they were being held hostage by the employees, and today they don't? And the reason I ask is I think there was a view that maybe the job market was so tight. You remember people would say, job market's so tight that we can't afford to let these people leave, and so we need to make their life as cushy as humanly possible. Today, by the way, job market seems just as tight, and people are saying, talk to the hand.
Yeah, it really has to do with the culture of activism. So activism tends to rise. Every 50 years or so, you get a real activist culture. It was the early 1970s, 2020, thereabouts. And what we saw on college campuses, this is where I make my living, is on college campuses. Activism became more important than inquiry, which is what ruined the university climate. There's nothing wrong with activism per se, but when it gets to great inside organizations, then a small group of people, usually 3 to 5% of people, can bully the leadership. Effectively, that's what happened at universities, for 3 to 5% that did not represent the community and were just blowing people up, that people became afraid of them. And that activist culture was really well organized inside companies, universities, the media, every place else you want to look. And now people are figuring out how to fight back.
But work from home captured more than 3 to 5%.
No, for sure. But the whole point is that the activists about that had disproportionate power, is the way that works, or on any particular topic. You can in the Slack channel inside a company, 3 to 5% figured out how to look like 50%, and then sooner or later, leadership caught on. And this is the case. This is what we're seeing in companies and universities, and now the backlash against the activism is what we're seeing, and I think it's welcome. I'm really happy to see it.
Are employees long-term more happy when they work in an office because they have the camaraderie, their career develops more? Short-term unhappy to be in the office, long-term happy, or is it?
There's a lot of research on that, and it's actually quite conflicted is the way that works. But the bottom line is that people are happier when they're with other people if the environment is such that they can actually make friends. So one of the things that we find in the research really clearly is that the happiest companies, which is to say highest morale among employees, they actually make the most money. But one of the best things that you can do is to create a climate of friendship inside, and that means not being buddies with the boss. That means getting out of the way so they can be friends with each other. You're not friends with people on Zoom. You're just not.
How does the ubiquity of AI ultimately change that dynamic? And I ask that because, as AI agents become, more ubiquitous throughout the workforce, and as people are using these tools more, I've heard a lot about, oh, well, you're just going to be a lot more productive in the workplace. Maybe you only work a 4-day week. Maybe. How do you see it changing the dynamic of the relationship between employee and employer?
I don't actually see a lot of happiness gains coming in general from the way that we're using AI. And part of the reason is because AI is new. And when we use new technology, brand new technology that seismically changes the way that we interact with each other. The big problem is it starts by substituting for human relationships. So you see that where AI is working right now with respect to, I don't know, dating apps, social media, the way that we're actually working, it's crowding out actual human relationships. Here's the deal with tech in general and happiness. Here's the rule. If tech substitutes for actual human relationships, it's bad for happiness. If it complements human relationships, it's actually good for happiness. So, for example, let's take a parallel case. Dating apps, for example, clearly they're making relationships harder for a lot of people. Most people say they don't like actually how it helps them to meet people. People are really dissatisfied with it. But new dating apps are trying to figure out a way where it will complement the relationships as opposed to substituting the complex environment of meeting people and falling in love. That's the way all technology is supposed to mature, and AI is going to have to do it that way so it doesn't actually hurt us in terms of what we care about, which is love and happiness.
Arthur, I want to pivot the conversation. I want you to put your former AEI hat on.
Okay.
And I want to talk about.
It's still my hat.
I want to talk about capitalism in America today.
Yep.
Free markets, something you've come on this broadcast many times and advocated.
Yep.
Okay. Well, you may love them, but I think it's shifting, at least what's happening in this country. So weigh in on the idea that the United States government has now taken a stake in Intel, is charging a VIG to NVIDIA and AMD to export their chips to China, even though originally they didn't want them to, for national security purposes and everything else. Golden shares, and the idea more broadly that the president says that he would prefer or would like to actually buy into more companies. What say you?
I hate industrial policy.
You do?
I hate it. I mean, I don't like it. I think it's bad for free markets, it's bad for growth, and it's bad for freedom in general. Now, I understand that it's always existed. It would be naive of me to say that this is a new thing. On the contrary, the Biden administration was unbelievably aggressive in industrial policy. The weird thing is that, most people associate Republicans with going the other direction, and the Republicans kind of aren't. But the truth is that we have this big wave of greater industrial policy that's encroaching on American capitalism, and I don't like it. I think it's
so why do you think we're not hearing from AEI? We're not hearing from the Chamber of Commerce. We're not hearing from the Business Roundtable. We're not hearing from business leaders screaming from the rooftops saying this is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, if in fact that's what you believe.
Well, I can't speak for the Chamber of Commerce. I certainly can't. But I see scholars every day from the American Enterprise Institute who are talking about it. The problem is that the counter-argument doesn't get as much weight right now. What really gets the weight, what the media is focusing on, is sort of an audacious move by the Republican administration to weigh more heavily into industrial policy than they've done in the past.
Okay, then where Republican congressmen or Republican senators that historically supported these positions that you have?
This is a problem with the way that conservative politics is moving today. This is a problem with the Republican Party today. Now, this is out of the equilibrium. I have faith that we're actually going to come back to our free market roots.
You do?
I think so. And
you don't think this is generational? Because I'm of the view that this could be decades, meaning if you don't like tariffs, these tariffs are likely to be here for decades, in part because once you put them on, they become part of the budget. It's very hard to say, hey, we're making $200, $300 billion a year, and the next president comes in, whoever that is, and says, I don't like tariffs, we're not doing that anymore. Then all of a sudden you have a $200, $300 billion hole to fill.
Yeah, I think you're right that these things do tend to be pretty sticky, but I think that the ideology is going to move away from that because the status quo among American conservatives tends to be more toward economic freedom.
Right.
That's the general way that they think, and I think they will get back into that groove at some point. The sooner the better.
The other thing that's so interesting is just the flip in terms of the way Republicans think about power and the way Democrats think about power. It used to be that Republicans thought the Democrats were trying to do too much.
Right.
And now it's almost the opposite. We've been having this big conversation about the independence of the Federal Reserve, for example, and what's going on with Lisa Cook and all of these things. And it's almost like a complete reversal of the sort of normal.
Yeah, because whoever's in power, the other side actually takes the opposite position because that's how you can get a dig at whoever actually happens to be in the White House at this point. The Republicans have a lot of power. They have the Senate, they have the House. Arguably, they have greater power in the Supreme Court with their agenda, at least, and the White House, obviously. And so the result of that is a kind of a clean sweep. The table's been run, and so the result is that Democrats...
As a happiness guy, are you happy about that?
It's politics, Andrew. I mean, it's like this is politics, and the truth is politics never raises happiness. Anytime a politician says, I'm going to make you happy, you should be very, very nervous.
I was about to ask that. We always say people vote, particularly in America, vote with their wallet.
Yeah.
Do they vote with their happiness ever?
Oh, yeah, all the time. This is actually how they form their families. This is how they make their decisions ultimately. The reason they're voting with their wallets is because it's downstream from their happiness. They think they're going to be able to support their families better. They're going to have more security.
Is the nation happier now?
The nation is not. The nation has actually been in a happiness decline since 1990. This goes way back. That's the climate of happiness. And the reason for that is that there's 4 practices that the happiest people follow. They practice their faith or a life philosophy if they're not religious. They have a family life. They have friends, real friends. And they actually feel like they serve other people through their work, and all 4 of those things have been in decline. Then there's the big storms in happiness, like the coronavirus epidemic that John Stanke is trying to help his company finally come back from. We talked about that earlier. There's the reaction to the financial crisis, plus all of the way that people have reacted to the new media and the new technology in 2008, 2009, 2010, when everybody got screens in their pockets and social media apps. And, of course, there's the polarization, the political polarization. All these things have been horrible for happiness. And a lot of that is related to politics. If you want to be happier, pay less attention to politics. That's the bottom line. Look at it for 15 minutes in the morning. I recommend Squawk Box, not politics.